My phone rang at 12:17 in the morning, Frankfurt time. I remember the exact minute because I had looked at the clock maybe 30 seconds earlier and thought, if I fall asleep right now I can still get 5 decent hours. I was in a hotel room near Messe Frankfurt, halfway under the covers, laptop still open on the little desk by the window. I had a presentation at 8. 10 days in Germany had already scrambled my sleep, my appetite, and whatever dignity I normally had about eating crackers for dinner. The number on my screen was from Ohio. Not a number I recognized. For 1 second I almost let it go. Then I answered. "Hello," a woman said. "Is this Claire Bennett?" "Yes." "Are you Noah's mother?" I sat straight up. "Yes." "Who is this?" "My name is Denise Walker. I manage the Greenway Market over on Henderson Road." My brain was still trying to place the name of the store when she said, "I don't want to scare you." That sentence has never once in human history been followed by anything reassuring. "What happened?" "There's a little boy here who gave me your number." I was already out of bed. "What little boy?" There was a pause. "Your son." I stopped moving. For a moment all I could hear was the hotel air conditioner rattling under the window. "My son is at your store." "Yes, ma'am." "Noah, yes." "What is he doing there?" "Well," she sounded careful now, "he's been sitting on the bench outside since about 4 this afternoon." I looked at the clock again as if Germany might somehow explain Ohio. It was after 6 in the evening back home. No, wait. I did the math again. 6 hours behind. It was after 6. Still, that meant 2 hours. Then, Denise added, "I noticed him when I came in for my shift. One of the cashiers says he was already there when she got back from break around 4. I gripped the phone harder. "Is he hurt?" "No. He doesn't appear hurt." "Is he crying?" "No." That somehow scared me more. "Where is my husband? I'm sorry." "My husband?" "Mark." "Where is he? I don't know." My stomach dropped. "What do you mean you don't know?" I asked Noah who was coming to get him. He said nobody. I was pacing now barefoot on hotel carpet. That doesn't make sense. Put him on the phone, of course. I heard muffled voices, a door opening, then Denise saying softly, "Honey, your mom's on the phone." A few seconds later Noah said, "Mom." I closed my eyes. "Baby, where are you at Greenway?" "I know." "Why?" Silence. "Noah, I'm sorry." That was the first thing he said to me. Not, "I'm scared," not, "Come get me," not even, "Where are you? I'm sorry." I sat on the edge of the bed. "Why are you apologizing? I know you're working." I had to stare at the wall for a second before I could answer. "Noah, listen to me. You never have to apologize for calling me. Ever. Do you understand? Okay." "Where's Mark?" Another pause. "On the Disney ship." I frowned. What Disney ship? The cruise. I actually pulled the phone away from my ear and looked at it. What cruise with Tyler and Maddie? I stood again. Mark had told me he might take Tyler and Madison down to Florida during spring break. He had mentioned visiting his brother near Tampa. I remembered asking if that would be too much driving, and Mark had said they hadn't decided yet. There had been no cruise. And Noah was supposed to be with Mark. Noah, who's been staying with you. Nobody answered. I said his name again. Noah. Nobody. I felt cold all over. What do you mean nobody? Mark left food? That sentence still bothers me, not because of what it said, because of how normal Noah made it sound. He showed me the microwave. When did he leave? I don't know. You don't know? Saturday, I think. It was Thursday. I sat back down. Saturday, yeah. Has anybody been with you since Saturday? No. What about Mrs. Palmer? Mark said she was next door if I needed something. Did you see her? No. Did you knock? No. Why not? I didn't need anything yet. Yet. I remember staring at the beige hotel carpet and thinking I had somehow stepped into somebody else's life. What happened today? The milk smelled bad. What? The milk. And I ate the last pizza thing yesterday. What pizza thing? The little ones. Bagel pizzas. He meant the frozen bagel pizzas I kept for after-school snacks. So I went to the store. By yourself? Yes. How did you get there? I walked. Greenway was a little under a mile from our house. There were two busy intersections between them. I pressed my hand against my forehead. What did you buy a sandwich? And then why didn't you go home? Noah was quiet. I heard Denise say something to someone in the background. Then he said very softly, I didn't want to. That was the first moment I stopped asking practical questions. Why the house was dark. I swallowed. It wasn't dark at 4. It gets dark later. I understood. He had decided that if he stayed near the store, there would still be people around when it got dark. Did you call Mark? I tried. What happened? It didn't work. Did you call me? No. Why not? Another silence. Mark said not to bother you unless it was a real emergency. I stood completely still. He said what he said, you had a big presentation. I had told Mark that 3 weeks earlier. I had stood in our kitchen drinking coffee and said, this client meeting is important. I need 10 days where I'm not fixing everything from 5,000 miles away. I meant laundry questions, school forms, the plumber, not my 8-year-old deciding whether being alone for 6 days qualified as enough of an emergency to interrupt me. Okay, I said. I want you to give the phone back to Denise. Are you mad? No at me, no sweetheart. Okay, Denise came back on. I asked her to stay with him. I'm not leaving him, she said immediately. That was the first thing anybody said that night that made me feel like I could breathe. I called 911. Try explaining from a hotel room in Germany that your child is in Ohio and the man you believed was caring for him is somewhere on a cruise ship. The dispatcher kept asking calm questions. Address, age, who had legal responsibility, whether Noah had been injured, whether there were weapons in the house, whether another trusted adult could get to him. My sister Rachel lived about 25 minutes away. I called her next. She answered on the 4th ring. Claire, Rachel, I need you to get dressed. There was no sleepy confusion after that. What happened Noah's at Greenway Market? What he's been alone? How long I looked toward the hotel window? Almost a week. She went silent. Then I heard movement. I'm leaving now. By the time Rachel reached the store, police were there. She video called me from the parking lot. Noah was sitting in the passenger seat of her SUV wrapped in one of Rachel's old Ohio State sweatshirts because he was cold. He looked tired, small, embarrassed. That embarrassed look nearly undid me. I said, You're going home with Aunt Rachel tonight. He nodded. Okay, I'm coming home. When? As soon as I can. You don't have to. You're working. I looked at my son through a phone screen from 5,000 miles away. Yes, I said. I do. I booked the first flight I could get. Only after the confirmation email arrived did I sit down and open my messages with Mark. There they were. 6 days of completely ordinary conversation. How's Germany did the client like the proposal airport coffee should be classified as a crime? And 2 days earlier, Noah's fine. Stop worrying and focus on work. I read that one 3 times. Then another message appeared. From Mark. Hope the presentation went well. Noah already asleep. I stared at it for a long time. He still didn't know. He didn't know about Denise. He didn't know about the police. He didn't know Rachel had Noah. And he definitely didn't know I was about to board a plane home. I typed slowly. Yeah, long day. I'll call you tomorrow. Then I picked up my suitcase and headed for the airport. By the time I landed in Columbus, I had been awake so long that everything felt slightly unreal. Airports can do that to you. You spend enough hours under fluorescent lights eating overpriced sandwiches, and eventually your own life starts to feel like something happening on a television mounted above a gate. Rachel picked me up. She didn't hug me right away. She just took my suitcase, put it in the back of her SUV, and said, He's okay. I nodded. I know. He slept. Good. He ate 2 pancakes this morning. That almost made me laugh. 2, 3, technically. He said the 3rd one didn't count because it was smaller. There was my son, still negotiating portions like an attorney. Rachel looked over at me once we were on I-670. You want me to tell you what he said last night? No. She glanced at me. Not yet. Okay. I wasn't ready to hear his whole version from somebody else. I needed to hear it from him if he wanted to tell me. And I needed to be very careful not to turn Noah into a witness in my marriage. That distinction mattered to me. Maybe because I had already spent the entire flight blaming myself. Not Mark, myself. I had gone overseas. I had trusted him. I had believed every casual text he sent me. And somewhere over the Atlantic, I kept replaying the same stupid question. How did I not know Rachel must have guessed where my mind was going? Don't do that. Do what? Whatever you're doing right now. I'm sitting here. You're prosecuting yourself. I looked out the window. You don't know that. I've known you 43 years. 44. See, still correcting people. You're fine. That got the smallest laugh out of me. When we pulled into Rachel's driveway, Noah was standing behind the storm door. He opened it before I reached the porch. Then he ran at me. I dropped my purse and caught him. For about 5 seconds, neither of us said anything. Then he pulled back and looked at me. Am I in trouble? I stared at him. For what? For leaving the house? No. He studied my face. Not even a little. Not even a little. He nodded as if that was something he needed formally entered into the record. Then he said Aunt Rachel made pancakes. I heard. The third one was small. So I heard. Rachel walked past us carrying my suitcase. I am not participating in pancake fraud. Noah smiled. That smile was the first normal thing I had seen in almost 20 hours. I didn't question him that morning. We ate. He showed me the blanket he had slept under. He complained that Rachel's guest room pillow was too fluffy, which was apparently a thing pillows could be. Eventually, in the car on the way back to our house, he began filling in pieces. Not because I asked much. Children will often tell you terrible things while looking out a car window. Maybe it's easier when nobody is staring at them. Mark said I should lock the back door twice, Noah said. You did every night. Okay. And he showed me how long to microwave the mac and cheese. I kept both hands on the steering wheel. What else did you eat? Pizza things, soup, cereal, anything else, he thought. Crackers. I nodded. That's a food group. He looked at me. No, it isn't. Depends on the week. For a second, he smiled again. Then he said, I took showers. That one caught me. Okay. Because Mark said you'd know if I didn't. I looked straight ahead. Did he? Yeah. There are moments when anger arrives very quietly. No fireworks, no shaking hands, just a little internal click. When we reached the house, I let Noah go in first. The place looked normal. That was almost the worst part. No broken furniture, no dramatic mess. No obvious scene of disaster, just a house where an 8-year-old had been trying very hard not to cause one. There were bowls in the sink, microwave wrappers in the trash, a kitchen chair dragged over beside the cabinets. I knew immediately why. Noah couldn't reach the upper shelf where I kept cereal and soup. On the counter was a sheet of notebook paper. His handwriting leaned uphill. Monday, pizza. Tuesday, mac and cheese. Wednesday, cereal. Thursday, soup. Then nothing. I picked it up. Noah came into the kitchen behind me. I forgot Friday. That's okay. I had crackers. I put the paper down. Okay, and a granola bar. Good. The milk carton was still in the refrigerator. I opened it. One smell was enough. I put it back. There was nothing dramatic about any of it. That was what made it feel so ugly. He had managed. That was the word Mark would probably use. Managed. An 8-year-old boy had locked the doors, rationed microwave food, moved chairs to reach cabinets, and tried not to bother anybody. And technically, yes, he had managed. Rachel came in behind us carrying 2 grocery bags. She looked around once. Oh, Claire. I didn't answer. Noah went upstairs to get some clothes. As soon as he was out of earshot, Rachel said, You need pictures. I know. And don't clean anything yet. I know. She hesitated. Do you? I turned toward her. Yes, she raised both hands. Fine, you're mean when you haven't slept. Also when I have. That's true. I took pictures of the counter, the list, the wrappers, the chair. Mark's handwritten instructions were beside the microwave. Wi-Fi password, alarm code, how long to heat the frozen meals, emergency numbers. At the bottom in his handwriting, don't call your mom unless it's an emergency. She needs to focus on work. I read that twice. Then I heard Noah coming back downstairs. I folded the paper and put it on the counter. Hey bud, yeah, when you were at the store yesterday, why didn't you call me? He shrugged. Mark said not to. He said not to call me, unless it was an emergency. And you didn't think it was? Noah looked uncomfortable. I didn't know. That was it. 3 words. I didn't know. I had to turn away for a second and pretend I was checking something in the sink. A child should not have to calculate whether he has earned access to his own mother. That thought stayed with me. I didn't say it out loud. I just said, "From now on, if you need me, you call me. You don't decide whether it's important enough. That's my job." He nodded. Okay. Then I went next door. Mrs. Palmer's house was dark. Her car wasn't in the driveway. I knocked anyway. Nothing. Rachel came up behind me. She's in Cincinnati. I turned. What? She told me last week she was going to see her daughter for spring break. I pulled out my phone. There it was. A group text from 3 days before I left for Germany. Mrs. Palmer heading to Cincinnati Wednesday morning, back next Tuesday. If anybody sees packages on my porch, please grab them. Mark had reacted with a thumbs up. He knew. I stood there staring at that stupid little blue thumb. Later, I found a separate text he had sent her. We'll be away a few days. Keep an eye on the place when you're back. Not Noah. The place. That afternoon, while Rachel helped Noah pack enough clothes to stay with her another night, I sat at my kitchen table and started remembering things I hadn't wanted to remember before. Mark taking Tyler fishing. Noah asking if he could go. Maybe when you're older. Tyler had been 8 on his first fishing trip. Christmas morning. Tyler got a new baseball glove. Madison got concert tickets. Noah got a desk lamp because Mark said he needed one for homework. Useful, thoughtful technically, but not the same. And the phrase Mark used constantly, "The kids want pizza. The kids are upstairs. The kids need rides Saturday." Somehow the kids always meant Tyler and Madison. Noah was Noah. I had noticed. I just hadn't wanted to make too much of it. Blended families were complicated. That was what I kept telling myself. You have to give people time. You have to let relationships develop naturally. You can't force affection. All true. But sitting in that kitchen, I began wondering whether all my patience had been paid for by the same person. Noah. Rachel sat across from me. What are you going to do? I don't know. Yes, you do. No, I know what I want to do. That's different. What do you want to do? Change the locks. Put his clothes in the driveway. Maybe set one suitcase on fire. Rachel considered that. Visually satisfying. I'm not doing it. Good. The suitcase thing felt legally weak. Despite everything, I laughed. Then I stopped. I need to know what I can actually do. Rachel nodded. Then call somebody. I looked upstairs. Noah was on the floor of his room putting Legos into a plastic bin, quietly, carefully, like he was trying to make leaving easy. That did it. I took pictures of every message I could find. The house, the food list, Mark's instructions, Mrs. Palmer's text. Then I called a family law attorney Rachel knew through a friend. Her assistant asked what the matter involved. I said my husband left my 8-year-old son alone for 6 days while I was overseas. There was a short silence. Then her voice changed. I can get you in tomorrow morning. I looked around the kitchen. I need to ask her something before my husband comes home. What's that? I said I need to know what I have to do before that man walks back into my son's house. Susan Keller was not what I expected. I don't know what I expected exactly. Maybe somebody aggressive. Somebody who would hear what Mark had done slam a legal pad onto the desk and say, "We're going to bury him." Instead, Susan was probably 60, wore reading glasses on a chain, and had a ceramic mug that said, "World's okayest lawyer." She read my notes for about 3 minutes without saying anything. Then she looked up. "Where's Noah now with my sister?" "Good. Does Mark know you're home?" "No." "Does he know Noah isn't at the house?" "No." She took off her glasses. "Keep it that way for the moment." That surprised me. I was planning to change the locks. "No. Why not? Because you're married, he lives there, and we are not going to take one bad situation and decorate it with another." I almost smiled. Almost. So I can't keep him out. I didn't say that. I said, "Don't improvise." Susan turned my handwritten timeline toward herself. "Police made a report. Yes. Child Services contacted you this morning." She nodded. "And you're cooperating." "Of course." "Good." Then she leaned back. "Claire, I need you to understand something before we talk about separation." I waited. This isn't only a marriage problem anymore. That sentence landed differently than I expected. Susan explained that whatever happened between Mark and me was one issue. The police report and child welfare investigation were another. I couldn't make those disappear by forgiving him, and filing for divorce wouldn't determine what authorities did either. "What happens to him? I can't tell you that. Could he be arrested? I can't predict what law enforcement will do based on what you've told me." I looked down at my hands. Susan's voice softened. "My advice is simple. Tell the truth. Save everything. Don't coach Noah. Don't threaten Mark with criminal consequences. And don't promise Mark anything about them either. I wasn't planning to. You'd be surprised what people plan after 3 nights without sleep." I liked her. Not because she told me what I wanted to hear, because she didn't. The Child Services interview that afternoon was worse. Not hostile. That would have been easier. The woman asking the questions was calm and professional. Had Noah ever stayed home alone for 20 minutes once while I picked up a prescription? Did Mark regularly supervise Noah? Yes. Did I know Mark planned to leave Ohio? No. Did I know about the cruise? No. Who did I believe was caring for Noah while I was in Germany? My husband. Saying it out loud made me feel stupid. I knew that wasn't rational. But there it was. At one point, I said I should have checked. The investigator looked up. "You spoke to your husband while you were gone every day. And what did he tell you, that everything was fine?" She wrote something down. That was all. No absolution. No accusation. Just another question. By the time I left, I understood something I hadn't considered on the plane home. Mark's decision didn't just put Noah at risk. It put me in a position where I had to explain to strangers why I had trusted my husband with my child. That evening, Mark called. I was sitting at Rachel's kitchen table. Noah was in the family room watching some nature show about sharks. I almost didn't answer. Then I remembered Susan telling me not to start playing games. So I picked up. "Hey, there she is," Mark said. "How's my world traveler?" There was music behind him. People talking, somebody laughing. He sounded relaxed. I looked through the doorway at Noah, exhausted. "How'd the presentation go?" "Fine. Just fine. Client liked it. Knew they would. I let him talk. He complained about the humidity. Said Madison had eaten enough soft-serve ice cream to bankrupt the ship. Mentioned Tyler had finally put his phone down for almost 40 consecutive minutes, which Mark considered a parenting triumph. Then I asked, "How's Florida?" There was the smallest pause. "Good. And the kids having a blast." I waited. Nothing. No cruise, no mention of Noah. So I asked, "How's Noah?" "He's fine." I looked at my 8-year-old sitting 10 feet away from me. "When did you last talk to him?" Another pause. "What?" "When did you last talk to Noah yesterday?" I said nothing. Maybe the day before. "Why, you don't remember, Claire." "I'm on vacation." "What's with the interrogation on vacation?" I almost said it then. I almost told him everything. Instead I asked, "You checked on him?" "Yes." "He's definitely okay?" "Yes." The ease of that answer frightened me more than if he'd gotten angry. "Okay," I said. "What's going on?" "Nothing. I'm tired. You always get weird when you're jet-lagged." Apparently jet lag had now lasted all the way to Ohio. "Get some sleep," he said. "I'll call tomorrow." "Sure." After we hung up, I asked Noah if I could look at his tablet. He handed it over without asking why. The messages with Mark were right there. Saturday, 10th of 14 a.m. "Everything good, Noah?" "Yes." That evening, Mark had called him for 4 minutes. "Sunday food." "Okay, yes." "Monday? Need anything?" "No." "Tuesday?" "Nothing." "Wednesday?" A photo from Mark of the ocean. "Look at that water." Noah had responded with a thumbs up. Thursday morning, Noah had tried calling him twice. Both calls showed unanswered. That was the day he went to Greenway. Mark hadn't completely disappeared. In some strange way that made what he'd done more believable and more infuriating. He had checked. Technically, everything good food, okay, need anything. 3 questions designed to receive one-word answers. He wasn't checking whether Noah was safe. He was checking whether Noah had become inconvenient yet. And Noah being Noah kept saying no. After he went to bed, I returned to our house. I needed paperwork for Susan, insurance information, bank statements, tax returns. Mark and I kept household files on the desktop computer in the little office off the kitchen. I searched his email for travel receipts. That's when Disney came up. At first I thought I had the wrong reservation. The confirmation was from 3 months earlier. 4 passengers. Mark Bennett Tyler, Bennett Madison, Bennett Noah Carter. I read Noah's name twice. He had been booked on the cruise. I kept searching. There was another email 2 weeks later. Reservation modification. 3 passengers. Noah had been removed. I pulled up my work calendar. I already knew what I was going to find, but I checked anyway. The morning Noah's reservation was canceled was 3 days after my company confirmed the Frankfurt trip. I sat there for a long time. Until then, some part of me had been trying to build a version of events I could survive. Maybe Mark had gotten a last-minute cruise deal. Maybe he'd made a reckless decision. Maybe he genuinely believed somebody was watching Noah. Maybe one terrible choice had led to another. But Noah had originally been going. Mark hadn't forgotten to include him. He had included him, then removed him. I opened the revised invoice. The credit from Noah's fare had been applied toward onboard upgrades and extras on the remaining reservation. I actually laughed once. Not because anything was funny, because there are moments when reality becomes so precise it feels rude. My son hadn't just been left behind. His unused fare had helped improve everybody else's vacation. My phone buzzed beside the keyboard. Mark. For one irrational second, I wondered if somehow he knew what I had found. Then I read the message. Surprise. We got an earlier flight. Home tomorrow around 4. A second message followed. Kids are wiped out. Can't wait to sleep in my own bed. I looked around the kitchen, at Mark's instructions beside the microwave, at Noah's little food schedule, at the chair he had dragged across the floor because he couldn't reach the cabinet. Then I looked back at the cruise reservation. 4 names, then 3. Mark was coming home tomorrow, and as far as he knew, the only person waiting for him was the wife he'd been lying to all week. At 3:45 the next afternoon, I was sitting at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee I had no intention of drinking. Noah was at Rachel's. That had been his choice as much as mine. I'd told him Mark was coming home, and before I could even finish the sentence, Noah asked, "Can I stay here with Aunt Rachel?" Yes. He looked relieved. That answer told me everything I needed to know about where he should be during the conversation. I'd also decided against meeting Mark at the airport. For about 10 angry minutes the night before, I imagined standing at baggage claim with the police report in my hand. Then I pictured Tyler and Madison beside him. They were 15 and 12. They hadn't left Noah alone. They hadn't lied to me. Whatever happened next, I wasn't going to make 3 children carry the spectacle of it. So I waited. At 4:23, I heard the garage door. Mark came through the kitchen carrying 2 bags and wearing a Disney Cruise t-shirt I had never seen before. He was tan. That bothered me more than it should have. Not because being tan was a crime. It just seemed offensive that sunshine had happened to him while Noah was eating crackers for dinner. Hey, he said. He dropped a suitcase near the mudroom and kissed my cheek. I let him. Germany survive without you. Apparently. Flight okay long. You look exhausted. So do you. Yeah, well, Madison discovered midnight pizza. He smiled. I didn't. Tyler came in behind him carrying a backpack. Hey, Claire. Hey, Tyler. Madison followed with 2 shopping bags and hugged me. I got you something. You didn't have to do that. It was only $12. Mark laughed. Never let that kid negotiate a hostage situation. Normally I would have laughed too. Instead I said, "Why don't you guys take your things upstairs?" They did. Mark opened the refrigerator. Do we have beer? Probably. He bent down, moved a carton of orange juice, then straightened. "Where's Noah with Rachel?" He looked at me. "Why sit down?" Something in my voice finally reached him. "What's wrong? Sit down, Mark." He slowly closed the refrigerator. I had put 3 things on the table: his handwritten instructions, the police incident number, and the piece of notebook paper with Noah's meals. Mark looked at the papers. Then at me. "What is this?" I asked. "Who was taking care of my son?" He didn't answer. "Mark." His eyes moved back to the table. "Where's Noah safe? What does that mean?" "It means he's with Rachel. Who was taking care of him?" His face changed. Not guilt at first. Calculation. I watched him trying to figure out how much I knew. Mrs. Palmer was right next door. No, she wasn't. What? She was. She was in Cincinnati. He frowned. I didn't know that. I slid my phone across the table. Mrs. Palmer's message was open. Leaving Wednesday morning, back next Tuesday. Underneath it was Mark's thumbs up. He stared at it. "Okay, I forgot." "You told Noah she was next door. I thought she was." "You acknowledged the message. Claire people send 50 texts a day. I don't memorize everyone. I let that sit." Then I asked again. "Who was taking care of him?" Mark pulled out a chair. "Noah is mature for his age. He's 8. I know how old he is." "Then why are you saying that like he's 37? He rubbed his face. "I left food. I left money. He had my number. He ran out of food he knew how to make. There was plenty of food. There were ingredients, Mark. He's 8. A package of raw chicken isn't dinner to an 8-year-old. He knows how to use the microwave." "Yes. You apparently covered that in orientation." His eyes narrowed. "Don't do that. Do what make me sound like some monster. I haven't called you anything." I pushed Noah's food list toward him. Monday pizza, Tuesday mac and cheese, Wednesday cereal, Thursday soup. After that he ate crackers and a granola bar. Mark looked at the paper. He could have called me. He did. "What, twice?" "I didn't get—" "You didn't answer. I was on a ship, Claire. Service is spotty." I stared at him. He heard it as soon as he said it. I didn't need to point it out. He looked away. I said, "Yesterday, he walked to Greenway Market because he needed food." Mark's head came up. "He walked there?" "Yes." By himself, I almost couldn't believe the question. Who did you think was going with him, Jesus? He sat outside that store from 4 in the afternoon until they were getting ready to close. Mark went pale. What? A woman named Denise noticed him. She called me. Why didn't Noah just go home? Because he didn't want to be alone in the house after dark. Mark sat back. For the first time since he'd walked in, he had nothing ready. He was scared. "Yes, I didn't know. I know." That seemed to surprise him. "I believe you didn't know. Then you didn't know because you weren't there." He looked down. I checked on him. "No, you asked him 3 questions in 3 days. I called him. Once. For 4 minutes. He said he was fine. He's 8. He would have told me if something was wrong. He apologized to me for bothering me when a stranger called from a grocery store." Mark didn't answer. I tapped the handwritten instructions. "You told him not to call me unless it was an emergency. Because you specifically asked me not to bother you with little things while you were working. My child is not a little thing." I didn't say he was. You made him decide whether being alone was serious enough to interrupt me. His voice rose. "I thought he'd be okay." "And he wasn't. I know that now. You should have known it before you got on the ship." That was when he said it. Maybe because he was tired. Maybe because he'd run out of explanations. The cruise was supposed to be time with my kids. The kitchen went very quiet. I looked at him. "Noah lives in this house with you. You know what I mean?" "Yes." I nodded slowly. "I finally do." "That's not what I meant." "Then explain it." He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. I almost told him about the reservation then. About Noah's name on the original booking. I didn't, not yet. Instead, Mark noticed Susan's business card near my purse. He picked it up. "What the hell is this? Put it down. You called a divorce lawyer. I called a family law attorney." While I was gone? Yes. His chair scraped back. "So you've already decided I'm guilty. This isn't a trial. You called the police, child services, and a lawyer before even talking to me. I called the police because our 8-year-old was sitting outside a grocery store while you were on a cruise. Our 8-year-old, I caught the words immediately. So did he. Mark looked away. I said, interesting time to remember that. That's cheap. No cheap was using his cruise credit to upgrade your vacation. His face changed. There it was. He knew exactly what I meant. You went through my email, our computer, our travel account, Jesus Claire. Was Noah originally supposed to go before Mark could answer? A voice came from the hallway. Wait. Tyler stood near the bottom of the stairs. Mark turned. Go upstairs. Tyler ignored him. What do you mean Noah was alone? This is between me and Claire. Was he here by himself, Tyler? You said he was staying with Aunt Rachel. I looked at Mark. That was new. Madison appeared halfway down the stairs. What, go back upstairs, Mark said. Madison looked at me. Wasn't Noah with Rachel? No, I said. Mark stood. Claire. What, you want me to lie to them too? I don't want you dragging them into this. Tyler gave a short, humorless laugh. You already did. Mark turned toward him. Watch your tone. No, you told us Noah didn't want to come. Madison looked confused. I thought he had soccer or something. Noah didn't know there was a cruise, I said. Madison's face fell, but I bought him something. Nobody spoke. Then Tyler said quietly, we would have wanted him there. Mark looked at his son. Whatever argument he'd been preparing disappeared. I realized something then that I should have seen much earlier. I'd spent years telling myself blended families were difficult because children had different loyalties, different histories, different parents. But Tyler and Madison hadn't created this line. Mark had. I stood. I want you to stay somewhere else tonight. Mark looked at me. You're kicking me out of my own house? I'm asking you to give Noah space while we figure out what happens next. This is insane. No, what's insane already happened. You're blowing up our whole family over one mistake. That one got through. For a second I wondered if he was right. 4 years, mortgage payments, Christmas mornings, Saturday errands, birthdays, the 1,000 ordinary things that make a marriage feel permanent right up until it isn't. Then Tyler asked from behind him, Is Noah okay? I looked at him. He will be. Mark eventually packed a bag. He didn't slam doors. I almost wished he had. Instead, he looked tired and frightened as he walked through the garage. And yes, part of me still loved him. That's what made the whole thing so much harder than anger. After the garage door closed, Madison went upstairs. Tyler stayed in the kitchen. He looked at the papers on the table, then at me. Claire. Yeah. Did Dad really leave him here 6 days? I nodded. Tyler swallowed. He told us Noah was with Aunt Rachel. I know. He stared toward the garage. Then he said something so quietly I almost missed it. Why would he lie to us? I didn't answer. Because for the first time, that was Mark's question to answer, not mine. Mark called me 3 times the next morning. I didn't answer the first 2. On the third, I was sitting in Rachel's kitchen while Noah and Rachel argued about whether chocolate milk counted as breakfast. It has milk in the name, Noah said. So does milk of magnesia, Rachel said. I'm not pouring that on your cereal either. I stepped onto the back porch and answered. What? Mark was quiet for a second. I talked to an attorney. Okay. He says this could get serious. I looked through the glass door at Noah. It already got serious. You know what I mean. I did. For the first time, Mark wasn't talking about our marriage. He was talking about consequences he couldn't manage from a hotel room with an apology and a credit card. They're going to interview me, he said. I assumed they would. And probably you again. Probably. Another pause. Then his voice changed. Softer, reasonable. The voice Mark used when he wanted us to solve something together. Claire, I need you to make sure they understand the context. There it was. What context? That Noah isn't like most 8-year-olds. I closed my eyes. He's exactly like an 8-year-old, you know what I'm saying? He's responsible. He's stayed home alone before. For 20 minutes. But he has. Well, I picked up a prescription 3 blocks away. I'm not saying it's the same. Then don't use it like it is. He exhaled. I left food, money, emergency numbers. I checked on him. Mrs. Palmer was supposed to be nearby. You knew she was in Cincinnati. I forgot. You keep saying that. Because I did. I didn't answer. Then he said, I'm not asking you to lie. And technically he wasn't. That was what made it familiar. For 4 years, Mark had rarely asked me to lie for him. He asked me to explain him. When he forgot Noah's school concert, I told Noah Mark had been buried at work. When he bought Tyler a new baseball glove and Noah a desk lamp for Christmas, I said, Mark knows how much you like reading in bed. When Mark got impatient because Noah wanted to sit beside me at a restaurant, I explained that blended families took adjustment. I had spent 4 years translating. Mark could be thoughtless. I supplied the thought. Mark could be unfair. I supplied the context. And now he wanted me to do it one more time. I'll tell them what happened, I said. That's all I'm asking. No, it isn't. What does that mean? You want me to tell it in a way that makes you feel better about it. That's not fair. Maybe not. I went back inside. Later that afternoon, I met Susan. I told her about the call. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she said, Do you want to punish your husband? I thought about it. No. Do you want to protect him? That took longer. I don't know. Susan nodded. That's probably closer to the real problem. I looked at her. She folded her glasses and set them on her desk. You've been married 4 years. Feelings don't switch off because somebody did something terrible. I know. So don't make your decision based on whether you're angry enough today. What do I base it on? What you can live with tomorrow. I sat there quietly. Then she added, And when investigators ask what happened, you don't have to punish him. You don't have to rescue him either. Tell them what happened. 2 days later, Mark and I met before his scheduled interview. He looked awful. No tan could hide it anymore. He hadn't shaved properly, and there were dark circles under his eyes. For one dangerous second, I felt sorry for him. Then I remembered Noah asking whether he was in trouble. I put a folder on the table between us. What is that? Mark asked. The cruise. He looked at me. I removed the first confirmation. 4 names. His, Tyler's, Madison's, Noah's. You booked Noah. Mark stared at the page. Yes. Then you canceled him. He didn't answer. I placed the modification beside it, 3 passengers. Then I put down a printout of my work calendar. The company confirmed Germany on February 7th. Mark looked at it. You canceled Noah on February 10th. He leaned back. I don't remember exactly why I changed it that day. Okay. You don't believe me? I didn't say anything. You don't have to. I let the silence stay. That was new for me too. Usually I rescued people from uncomfortable silences. Eventually Mark rubbed both hands over his face. I wanted time with Tyler and Maddie. I know, they've had to share me with a new marriage, a new house, Noah, everything. Then why book Noah in the first place? I don't know. Yes, you do. He looked toward the window. After a while, he said, Once I knew you were going to Germany, I guess I thought it would be easier. For whom? Nothing. Mark. Easier for whom? He looked at me. For me. It was the first completely honest answer he'd given me. I never thought of it as leaving him, he said. I believe you. He looked almost relieved. Then I said, That doesn't mean you didn't. The interview itself wasn't dramatic. No shouting, no courtroom, no lawyer pounding a table. Just adults in a plain office asking questions that required plain answers. What child care arrangement did I believe existed? My husband was supposed to be caring for Noah. Did I approve of Noah remaining home alone? No. Did I know Mark was leaving on a cruise? No. Had Mark told me another adult would supervise Noah? No, I didn't know another adult was needed because I believed Mark would be home. I could feel Mark looking at me. One question gave me pause. Would you describe Noah as unusually independent for his age? I knew what Mark wanted me to say. And Noah was independent. He packed his own school lunch sometimes. He remembered library day better than I did. He could make scrambled eggs if I stood nearby and reminded him not to turn the burner into a NASA launch. But that wasn't what they were asking. He's responsible, I said. He's still 8, that was all. I didn't make Mark worse. I stopped making him better. Afterward, we went to Rachel's because Tyler and Madison had asked to see Noah. Madison carried a small Disney bag. Noah was sitting at the dining table drawing when they came in. She pulled out a Mickey Mouse keychain. I got this for you. Noah turned it over in his hand. Thanks. Madison stood there awkwardly. Then she said, Dad told us you didn't want to come. Noah looked up. Come wear the cruise. I didn't know there was a cruise. Madison looked at Mark. Tyler did too. Nobody said anything for several seconds. Then Tyler asked his father, You told us he wanted to stay with Aunt Rachel. Mark started Tyler. You made us part of it. There was no anger in Tyler's voice. That made it worse. Mark sat down. I screwed up. Tyler shook his head. You lied. Yes. To everybody. Yes. Madison started crying. Not loudly. She just sat beside Noah and wiped her face with her sleeve. Noah pushed the tissue box toward her. Of course he did. Mark watched him do it. I think that was the moment something finally broke through all his explanations. Not because I had defeated him, because the child he'd excluded was comforting one of the children he'd chosen. Later, after Tyler and Madison left with their mother, Mark asked if we could talk privately. We stood in Rachel's backyard. I am sorry, he said. I waited for the but. It never came. I wanted that trip with my kids, and I convinced myself Noah would be okay because that let me have what I wanted. I nodded. I know, I don't know what the hell I was thinking. I think you just told me. He looked at me. I'll fix this. I hated what I had to say next because part of me wanted to believe him. I hope you do. His face changed. But fixing yourself and staying married to me aren't the same thing. I handed him the envelope Susan had prepared. He didn't open it. He knew. 4 years, he said, and this is it. No, I looked at him. This isn't about 4 years. Then what is it about? The 6 days you decided my son didn't count. He lowered his head. There was no satisfaction in seeing him hurt. That's something people don't tell you about finally drawing a boundary. Sometimes it feels less like winning and more like admitting what you've already lost. I still loved parts of Mark. I believed he was sorry. I even believed this might change him. But remorse could make him a better man someday. It couldn't make those 6 days unhappen. And I wasn't going to ask Noah to trust Mark again just because losing my marriage frightened me. For once, I wasn't going to explain Mark. I wasn't going to soften him. I wasn't going to stand between him and the truth. He would have to meet it himself. The divorce took longer than I wanted and less time than I feared. That's probably the most accurate thing I can say about it. There was no dramatic courtroom victory. No judge giving Mark a speech about what kind of man he was. Nobody handed me the house and congratulated me for surviving. Real life is much less considerate about providing satisfying endings on schedule. There were forms, bank statements, meetings with Susan, emails about furniture that made 2 middle-aged adults sound ridiculous. Do you want the patio set? No. Then why is it on your list? Because you put the grill on yours. At one point, Susan looked over her glasses and said, You two understand that used patio furniture has essentially no resale value, right? That ended the battle of the patio. Eventually the house was sold. That hurt more than I expected. I had planted hydrangeas along the back fence the first spring after Mark and I married. Noah had helped me, which mostly meant digging one enormous hole where no hole was needed, and finding 17 worms. I had imagined growing old in that house. Instead, Noah and I moved into a townhouse about 10 minutes away so he could stay in the same school district. It had 2 bedrooms, a tiny backyard, and a kitchen designed by someone who apparently believed nobody needed more than 4 cabinets. Noah loved it. This place has stairs, he announced on moving day. So did the old house. Yeah, but these stairs turn. Apparently curved architectural excitement was all it took. He did miss the basement. He'd built an entire Lego city down there, complete with a hospital police station and a bank that had somehow been robbed 4 times. Bad neighborhood, he'd explained. I missed things too. The garden, my kitchen window, Sunday coffee on the back porch. Sometimes I even missed Mark. I don't say that because I regret leaving him. I say it because 4 years of marriage don't disappear just because somebody gives you a reason to end them. There were good days. There were private jokes. There were nights Mark sat beside me when I couldn't sleep after Noah's father died. There were ordinary Tuesday dinners when all 5 of us laughed until somebody choked on a French fry. Those things were real. So were the 6 days. I eventually learned you don't have to erase the good memories to justify leaving. You just have to stop using them to excuse what you can no longer live with. The investigation into what happened with Noah continued separately. Mark had his own attorney and his own responsibilities there. I stopped asking Susan to predict what every meeting or phone call meant. It wasn't mine to manage. That was harder than it sounds. Managing Mark had become a habit. Mark also started counseling. I didn't know much about it because I stopped asking. Tyler and Madison continued seeing him according to their normal schedule with their mother. They didn't abandon their father. I'm glad they didn't. He was still their dad. But something had changed. A few months later, Tyler called me. He still did that occasionally, usually when he needed a recipe I'd made or couldn't remember the password to something. That day he said, "Dad wants to take us somewhere this summer." "Oh, yeah," he said maybe the 3 of us could go to Tennessee. I waited. Tyler continued. So I asked him, 3? I smiled despite myself. What did he say? He got quiet, and then he said, 4 if Noah ever wants to come. Neither of us said anything for a moment. Finally, Tyler said, "That's better, right? It's different." Same thing. No different is where better starts. Tyler considered that. "You've been talking to your lawyer too much." Probably. Noah wasn't ready to go anywhere with Mark. Nobody forced him. Mark wrote him a letter instead. When the envelope arrived, I put it on the kitchen counter. "You don't have to read that." Noah picked it up. "What's in it? I don't know." "You didn't read it?" "No," that surprised him. "You read everything." "I absolutely do not. You read the back of cereal boxes. That's important nutritional journalism." He rolled his eyes and took the letter upstairs. He never told me everything Mark wrote. I never asked. Later, Noah said he said sorry. Okay. Do I have to write back? No, can I later, sure. That seemed to satisfy him. About 4 months after the night Denise called me Noah and I went back to Greenway Market. We brought flowers and a card. Denise was behind the customer service counter. When she saw Noah, she came around so fast she nearly knocked over a display of lottery tickets. "Look at you," she hugged him. "You've gotten taller." Noah looked skeptical. "It's only been 4 months. Well, apparently you had a growth spurt just to prove me right." He smiled. I handed her the flowers. She shook her head. "You didn't need to do this." "Yes," I said. "We did." Denise looked at me. "There are some thank yous you can't really put into words without making everybody uncomfortable in the middle of a grocery store, so I didn't try." She squeezed my hand. That was enough. On the way out, Noah stopped. The bench was still there. Same metal bench, same spot beside the entrance. People walked past us pushing carts. Noah looked at it for a few seconds, then he sat down. I sat beside him. Neither of us said anything at first. Finally he said, "You know what I thought that night? What I thought maybe nobody knew where I was." I looked at him. He was watching a man load grocery bags into a minivan. Then Noah said, "But Denise noticed." "Yes." "And Aunt Rachel came?" "She did. And then you came home, as fast as I could." He nodded. We sat there another minute. Then he asked, "Do you think Mark's a bad person?" I had wondered when that question would come. "I think Mark did something very wrong." "That's not what I asked." "No, it isn't." He waited. 8-year-olds can be surprisingly patient when they know you're trying to avoid a question. Finally, I said, "I don't think people are always just the worst thing they've ever done." Noah thought about that, so he's not bad. It's more complicated than that. He frowned. Adults always say that when they don't know the answer. I laughed. Sometimes we say it because the answer really is complicated. He kicked one sneaker against the pavement. Then why did you divorce him? That answer was easier. Because forgiving somebody and trusting them with your life aren't the same thing. He looked at me. Did you forgive him? I'm working on it. Does he know I think he's working on some things too? Noah accepted that. I was grateful he didn't ask me to explain forgiveness any further. At 46, I wasn't sure I could have passed the exam. We got up and headed toward the parking lot. Halfway to the car, Noah said, "Mom, yeah, if something like that ever happens again, you'll come get me, right?" I stopped. Every time. Even if you're in Germany, especially if I'm in Germany. He considered that. That's pretty far. Then you'd better not make a habit of it. Airline tickets are expensive. He grinned. Then he looked back at Greenway. Can we get ice cream? We were literally just inside. I forgot. You have been thinking about ice cream since we parked. Maybe. I sighed. Go. He headed back toward the doors and I followed. As we passed the bench, I looked at it one last time. For months, I'd thought of that bench as the place where my failure had finally caught up with my son. I don't think of it that way anymore. It was where Noah finally stopped trying to handle everything by himself. It was where somebody noticed him, and it was where the truth found me 5,000 miles away. I couldn't give Noah those 6 days back. I couldn't promise him that every adult he trusted would always deserve it. What I could promise was simpler. If he needed me, he never had to decide whether his problem was important enough. He never had to make himself smaller so somebody else could have an easier day. And he never had to wonder whether coming for him was worth the trouble. It always would be. If this story stayed with you, thank you for listening. And if there's someone in your life who needs to know you'll show up, sometimes it's worth telling them before they ever have to ask.